In my last theory, I said that if I got enough likes, I would pronounce Mimikyu the way the top comment suggested. And I am a man of my word, so for all of those who hate how I say Mimikyu, here is the top comments correction. Mimikafalosasa. I couldn't find the exact comment, so I tried my best, but that's pretty much what it was. But you have requested, comment section, that it is Mimikyu and not Mimikyu. But let's move on with today's video. The title does not lie. We will be discussing a theory someone had compiled that Porygon was Mimikyu. Before we check that out, I just wanted to let you know that my shirt store still has great Pokemon themed shirts, and if you'd like to see these videos a day earlier than anyone else, just head over to my Patreon to see these theories for $1. Now let's see if this theory actually holds up. If you didn't know, there's a video called Mimikyu's True Identity Revealed, in all caps, Pokemon Sun and Moon trending in Japan. This video was created by Tokyosaurus. It takes a Twitter post about Mimikyu and discusses the potential that it's actually a Porygon. The theory itself hinges on the idea that Porygon was banned due to an episode of Pokemon inducing seizures in children. The idea is that somehow this Pokemon hates Pikachu and wants revenge, thus turning into Mimikyu. Not the most far-fetched theory I've ever heard, but unlikely and unprovable. The first bit of evidence comes in the form of the anime, and it focuses on the flashing lights of the episode causing seizures, and Porygon being the cause of this as a scapegoat, as Pikachu was the actual cause using an electric attack against a missile. It's not entirely open to what the producers of the show did, as it's not recorded fully how parents reacted back in the 90s. Only a generic idea of the fallout, the show being taken off the air for 4 months and otherwise death sentenced to a weaker anime in Japan. Due to this, I can't personally say that is the reason we have never seen Porygon in the anime again, as far as full dedicated episode-wise. However, Porygon has made small cameos in multiple episodes since, from background Pokemon to graphically and still insertions. This leads me to believe that Porygon wasn't scapegoated as the Pokemon to cause the problem in hopes to save Pikachu's reputation. Porygon in the anime is the digital type Pokemon able to interface with computers. Having a disaster of an episode already centered around that, I am quite sure it was a no-go for episode ideas. Then Generation 2 came out, and by that time that mishap had blown over, and we have Porygon 2 coming into the mix. But again, what or how do you write an episode for that? This is probably the problem and the challenge for the writers, to not repeat the same episode again to a T. Speculations aside, this theory takes into consideration that the motive behind Porygon becoming Mimikyu applies to both the anime and the game series, and while the canons are just now starting to cross more, I am doubting that a subpopular Gen 1 Pokemon would be placed into such a devious position. Crossing canons is one thing, but to take a literal episode and stripe it across 3 separate canons and 2 multiverses is another. This anime theory would apply to the anime, games, manga, and the multiverses of remakes and originals. You must understand my skepticism in this situation. That being said, the theory continues on detailing how a free Porygon can be obtained in Sun and Moon, and there just happens to be a Mimikyu, this being more than coincidental. And again, you have to think that the same animators for the show that made that episode 17 years ago must somehow now be working on Sun and Moon in some way to corroborate this theory, leaving hints to confirm this theory's validity. Or the developers of Sun and Moon were sneaking in references to this, but again, this is really only in-game evidence. Looking at Porygon in-game is a very uncommon Pokemon to find. In 2 entire generations, it can only be purchased as it's a man-made Pokemon and not a wild one. It's genderless as well. In Generation 3, trading is the only way to get Porygon, and in Sun and Moon, you can only be given one, similarly in the way Lapras worked in Generation 1. My point being, Mimikyu, though rare, can still be found much more commonly than Porygon. This is on the islands of Alola, and since they can't breed, no matter how many there were, they would eventually disappear in the wild. The theory goes on to discuss Porygon's signature abilities and movesets, and in-game, its abilities are not sharpened, and during Gen 1, abilities were not a thing. I understand certain Pokemon had abilities without moves, like Charizard flying without having to use the move Fly. However, when delving this deeply into a theory and looking for evidence, one must understand that a similar ability is not the same. Porygon being able to change its form in cyberspace is one thing, but so can Ditto, so can Mew, and Smeargle can copy moves, and many Pokemon learn Mimic as well, and Mirror Move. So copying something or altering oneself is not evidence, as many Pokemon from Dodrio to Ditto can do this. The moveset of Mimikyu is more normal type, which is another key point in this theory, but looking at another ghost type like Misdreavus, we see plenty of normal move types mixed in. A lot of status and stat moves are normal, like Swords Dance or Growl, and many Pokemon learn moves like Leer and Growl, normal or not. Being normal isn't enough evidence to me personally. Mimikyu's moveset contains few normal moves like Scratch and Slash, probably due in part to its Shadow Claw-like appendage. But again, that goes with its nature, doesn't it? So it fits the Pokemon's design, and it learns Woodhammer. I am not a competitive player, but that's really strange, and definitely not Porygon. The theory closes with the idea of Team Rocket's Jessie saying something like, "I finally found you," in regards to the first encounter of Mimikyu. The wording here is where people find concern, that Jessie must have been looking for Porygon for a long time to say that. But in reality, it's probably a reference to them just trying to find Pikachu, as once again, Mimikyu looks like Pikachu, and she didn't know it wasn't Pikachu at first. Finally, I would like to suggest that Porygon might be an immortal Pokemon, or a soulless Pokemon. When Pokemon die, something carries them back into becoming another being, be it ghost type or something else. This can be seen in Frostlass and Yamask. Reincarnation and evolution play heavily into this. But Porygon is man-made Pokemon. It has yet to be proven a killable or mortal Pokemon. It's digital, yet it exists in reality. Perhaps it can die, but the question on if it can be reincarnated is hard to answer, as it very well may just be a collection of data. Quite a few people have seen Tokyosaurus Rex's video, and it seems to be a split of whether or not people like it or dislike it, which isn't good in terms of how many people view videos on YouTube. So I think it's safe to say that this theory is debunked, but just because you talk about a silly theory with little evidence doesn't mean you should dislike or hate it. After all, the Cubone Kangaskhan theory has been referenced by the developers within the game itself. One last thing though, in the first encounter with Mimikyu in the anime, Meowth did see under the costume, and well, to say the least, this Pokemon is deadly. So if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like and comment what you think about Porygon and Mimikyu. Please do share this video and interact down below, as YouTube does promote videos that are most enjoyed and interacted with. As for me, I've been your host Protomario, and I'm signing out. Good gaming, and God bless.